This is going to be a very different video compared to what I usually make because I have some theories. You remember the game Indigo Park? It came out over a year ago now, and it's an indie horror game about a theme park that has fallen into disrepair and just it suddenly shut down. Nobody was ever told why it shut down, nothing. It just did. Is Rambley trying to help us? Is he trying to help himself? Is he simply just trying to cover up what's going on at the park? Does he want to reopen the park? Does he even know what's going on? I want to answer all of these questions and a couple more. So just keep watching through, and I promise I'm going to be a bit disorganized, but I promise it's going to make sense.
That gave rise to our great nation. Here you embark on the journey of a lifetime, a place of creativity, joy, and fantasy, where your dreams
Know a little bit more about the game before we can get into some of the deeper lore. So the main characters of this game are Rambley the raccoon, Molly Macaw, Finley the sea serpent, I suppose, and Lloyd the lion. So Rambley the raccoon is going to be our tour guide. And of course, Indigo Park, I should point out, at time of recording, there is only one chapter out. So chapter 2 is set to release in December of this year, I believe, last I checked at least. So maybe we'll get some actual answers that aren't just my theories. So, Rambley absolutely loves Molly Macaw. Like, Molly is his best friend. He's even stated that Molly is his best friend in some of the voice lines he has. So he really likes Molly. In the beginning of the game, you ride on Rambley's Railroad Adventure? Is probably what it's called. I don't remember what it's called. But it's a railroad, essentially. And it's taking you through like an introduction of all the characters. When he's talking about Molly Macaw, his eyes have way too many highlights in them. Which typically, when a character has that many highlights in their eyes, it's because they're really happy, really excited about something. And he seems to just always breeze past the fact that Molly is constantly crashing into barns. All the time. She calls it barnstorming. It's kind of scary. I don't think I'd ever want her as my pilot, which is kind of ironic considering she's a bird. But I digress. Whenever Rambley is talking about Finley, he calls him his good friend. He says that Finley's like shy, like to the point of being obnoxiously shy. That was interesting. But he never says anything bad about Finley, saying that he hopes we can meet him one day. But when he talks about Lloyd, immediately his expression goes completely flat. He gets annoyed, and he just looks like he wants to be done talking to Lloyd. Why? That's what I wanted to know. At the kiosk, when you have the Retro Lloyd plush and the Lloyd plush, you can see what he has to say, what Rambley has to say about them. What Rambley has to say is definitely something. He crashes out over Retro.
I don't get why we even have those. And why do they only make one of Lloyd? Is it because he's the loudest? I can be loud too! Where's my limited edition throwback plush? Where's Molly's? Where's Finley's? Give this mistake to a child and they'll cry.
And if you show him regular Lloyd,
Ew, Lloyd.
why does Rambley hate Lloyd so much? A couple of theories as to why Rambley really hates Lloyd. So, playing through the game, we see that Lloyd and Molly have gone crazy, to say the least. Their eyes are glowing. They're both seen covered in blood. At one point, you see Molly's beak is just dripping blood, and Lloyd, his fur covered in blood. But it almost doesn't quite look like it's necessarily human blood. It almost looks like Lloyd was cut by something. Like he got stuck on something and his skin got ripped. But it could also just be the way the graphics are, and it could just be Lloyd having actual human blood on him. Because after all, where is he getting cleaned, right? So, my theories as to why Rambley hates Lloyd. Number one, when you're at a kiosk, if you're hovering over an item, you can see something that the in-game player has to say about it. Because this player, when they were younger, they used to frequent Indigo Park. Or so we're led to assume, at least. And the player says something about when they were younger, they feel like the parks used to use Lloyd as a mascot a lot more than they do now. Which, if they used him a lot more, maybe they used Rambley a lot less. And I kind of think that maybe Lloyd got a lot more attention than Rambley, and Rambley doesn't like that. So Rambley just kind of has a bit of a hatred for Lloyd because Lloyd was always more popular. Which, one of the voice lines does also lead us to believe that. Because when you hover over the Retro Lloyd plush and you press play for Rambley to talk about it, he crashes out saying, "Why doesn't Molly have one? Why don't I have one? Why doesn't Finley have one?" And he gets mad that him and the others don't have it, but Lloyd does. Which does support my theory that Rambley is just mad at the amount of attention they gave Lloyd. Now, my other theory is that Lloyd is the whole reason everything started to go wrong. So, if Rambley's jealous of Lloyd, then why does he only have that hatred for Lloyd? Because, I mean, Molly and Finley are pretty popular too. So why only Lloyd? Well, what if I told you that Lloyd was the first one Indigo Park decided to experiment with? Which is why things started to go wrong.
Your very own critter cuff! A new way to interact with the park that also doubles as a pedometer, heart monitor, and mood ring. Data disclosure agreement included.
But I think the owners of Indigo Park were experimenting with genetic mutation or some form of genetic manipulation. And I have a few reasons behind this. First, let's see. Animatronics, can they go crazy? Yep. Absolutely. But do they usually? No. Are we led to believe they're like AI animatronics? Yes. So could they have gone crazy in this fictional world? Yes. But that doesn't explain everything. Because if you cut open an animatronic, what are you going to find inside? Well, you'd find oil, maybe some water if there was some form of hydro cooling system. You'd find wires, you'd find springs, gears, metal things. I don't really know what all is inside of electronics, but you certainly wouldn't find blood and organs. But that's exactly what we find when Molly McCaw's head is cut off. The room gets covered in blood, and if you look at the bottom of where Molly's head got cut off, it's red and bloody, kind of looks like meat. It's not animatronic. The owners of Indigo Park decided to create their mascots and to make them so that they didn't have to pay their workers.
Whoa, where'd you find that? I've never seen anyone wearing one. Pretty snazzy. Ooh, looks like there's an audio recording tagged with costume in my database I've never noticed before. Let's listen.
Hey Jackson, you hear about the new mascots?
Yeah, think it'll put us out of a job?
I think so. Old sport. And right after we got this damn raccoon costume.
Man, screw this place. I say we get our asses out of here and go straight to Vegas.
Aw, come on. They didn't even document the Indigo inventory ID for the costume. I was really looking forward to that. What a useless recording. Deleted.
The Indigo Park, they were starting to get greedy. They didn't want to pay their workers, their mascots, and they also wanted to create a more interactive experience for the kids and their families. Because what's more fun for even like the adults? A mascot where it's a person in a costume and you know that? Or the actual thing. The actual animal. The size of a human. Able to talk. Able to interact with you. But something happened that made them go crazy.
Official data suggests you may be a bit older than the target audience for this ride, but it's one of my favorites. Do you know why Rambley the raccoon loves Rambley's Railroad? Because I like trains.
Now, can you trust Rambley? Well, let's see. Immediately after we get the critter cuff, he locks us in the gift shop and tells us to use it to make sure, well, hypothetically, to make sure it works. But why did he lock the door in the first place? We had to go use our critter cuff right after anyways. He lied to us about being able to help us out in the Lloyd situation. And he's definitely hiding some things he doesn't want us to know about. He deleted that audio recording. And after the chase scene with Molly McCaw, he decides to be honest with us and tell us that he's been confined to the entrance and he didn't realize Indigo Park was in such disrepair. And he tells us that he just wanted to make our time fun and special. So he asks for our help because there's a lot of things he can't do without human authorization. Why? Safety measure to make sure Rambley didn't take over the park. But if you don't take the left that Rambley tells you to take, a door shuts in your face and he tells you, oh, that's for your experienced wranglers. You can't go back there. Don't go back there. And then you have to go take the left he wanted you to take. You can't trust Rambley the raccoon. He's hiding something that he doesn't want us to know. Rambley might be the reason the park had to close.